Welcome to Women, Wealth, and Entrepreneurship with Ariel Shaw, MBA. We want to increase your bottom line and create generational wealth that lasts way beyond you. It's 2024, the year of reinvention and domination. Our 2024 media participants include Kenya Simmons of Kenya Simmons Real Estate and T&J Industries Development and Contracting, Monique Gibson of Our Rising Angels Personal Care Home, LLC, Demetria Winters of Black Butterfly Queens Life Coaching, Yvette D. Best of Best Services Unlimited, LLC, Micah Williams of Micah Williams State Farm Agency, and Alicia Williams of the Dazzling Diva Collection. Again, welcome to Women, Wealth, Entrepreneurship with your host, Ariel Shaw, MBA. This is Season 5. All right. Welcome to Women, Wealth, and Entrepreneurship. I am Ariel Shaw, founder and president of Southern Crescent Women in Business. We have the distinct pleasure of having Miss Ashonté Lyles. Ashonté, if you can tell everyone where you are and about who you are.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ashonté Lyles, as Ariel just stated, and I live in Orlando, Florida. I am a returning member of Southern Crescent Women in Business and one of the first of the Orlando, Central Florida chapter.
That's so interesting because I forgot you used to be a member, like when we first kicked off in 2019. So I know we officially formed everything in 28, like the end of 2018. But we didn't officially do anything until I want to say January of 2019. So welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Excited.
Absolutely. So Ashonté, you have, tell everybody you're a veteran. You have a vast amount of experience. Talk a little bit about who you are and where you are in your journey now.
So I'm co-owner of NIP Ventures LLC. It's a venture capital built company that currently is investing in my work and funding my work as a writer. I am also an Air Force veteran. I was in the U.S. Air Force for over 11 years and separated, and now I am also a 100% disabled veteran. So that affords me a lot of things as well, as a result of being a disabled veteran. And currently, I am a writer, and I used to be in the Federal Aviation Administration. So I was a federal employee for several years. Before federal FAA, I was working for the VA, the Veterans Administration, and the Veterans Benefit Administration. And as a writer today, I've really been writing since I was a child. I started writing poetry as a child, but didn't become published and get into writing other things beyond education and school until I met Ariel, until I met you. And got involved heavily with the Henry County Democratic Party, and as a result was able to do some interviews with several members of the Georgia Democrats, and did those interviews for Game Changers magazine, and so you can read those there. And so that was my first publishing venture. I also did a spoken word for a friend's hip hop album that he put out, mixtape. And I've done some short stories and poetry that has also been published recently. I recently graduated from Full Sail University here in Orlando, which is a major entertainment and technology school that deals primarily with television and music and movies. And so I've written some short stories there that got published by several people, as well as the women's group, your magazine, Southern Crescent Women in Business, has published a poem.
All right. So listen, this is amazing, first of all, because you come with a vast set of experience in the federal space, but that didn't stop you from what I call a reinvention. And it's so interesting because this year, when we released the winter magazine, which is always released in December of the previous year, well, actually, I think we released it in December. Um, I basically wrote a whole article on reinvention. And so, I think as women, we sometimes limit ourselves as to what we look like. Sometimes we put ourselves in these boxes and say, well, I've been doing this and I'm doing that. Well, you can do this too. If this is something in addition to what you want to do, life is to be lived and to be experienced, not to say, well, I may not have experience in that space, but more importantly, you also, even though you may not have, you've been writing as a child, but then you also said, well, I have all this experience, but I'm going back to school.
Yes.
And I think that's the beauty of, where we are, especially as women in this country, is being able to basically just reinvent ourselves and adding more layers to who we are. I think Beyonce did a great job of showing that this year when she came out as a country artist. I don't know.
Yes.
I'm like, okay.
Yes. Yes. And it's been going for years and no one had any idea, of course. Yeah.
Country space, but her specifically, when she just kind of pivot, I don't want to use the word pivot because I really want to stick with the reinvention concept, but I think this is just a great thing, a great space for women in business, women, period. It doesn't matter where you are. But you have a unique set of experiences. You served in the US military, or specifically the Air Force, and you worked in the federal space as well. So those who, you mentioned you're 100%. So people don't really understand that, especially if you're not a veteran or don't come from a veteran family. That doesn't mean that you can't do things. It just means that based off of, and I will let you explain that.
Yes, so 100% disability, permanent and total. There's different statuses of what that means, but it just means that you have a disability or multiple that hinders your ability to maintain your working in the workforce. So, you have limitations and also you have accommodations that need to be made when you are in the workforce. And also it affords you to have 100% medical coverage, especially for those with disabilities, so that you can go back to the Veterans Administration hospital and be seen and be treated and supported with those disabilities. And they also work very hard to help you stay employed in spite of those disabilities or limitations. So that status is not one, any veteran would tell you that they would prefer to be whole and healthy in mind and body over that status, or over any of the benefits that come from that having that status. But it does help because we aren't whole, and it helps us to maintain our presence in the world and still contribute greatly in spite of whatever limitations we may have as a result of our service.
Absolutely. And again, thank you for your service.
It was a
So,
pleasure.
so you mentioned that you started writing when you were a kid. Can you tell us, where are you from?
Oh, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, but I am a military brat, and as they affectionately call us, and we call ourselves often. So my father was in the U.S. Marine Corps for 22 years, and I've been traveling the world since I was a year old, still before I can even remember. And home base was always New Orleans. Both of my parents were born and raised there. And I have extensive family throughout the Mississippi Delta, from all the way from Chicago, all the way down to New Orleans and beyond, and over to Houston and over to Florida. So, huge Creole family on both sides. And I love my moi petite Paris, as I like to call New Orleans.
Yes, you guys definitely have a very unique culture. I always say it's so interesting because as you know, I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina. So our cultures have very similar, a lot of similarities. Um, but talk a little bit about what you are writing, and then I want you to talk about your NIP ventures.
Okay. So right now I just launched my horizon calls.com, which is a travel blog. The full title is The Horizon Calls Let's Go, GEAUX, nod to New Orleans. And it's a travel blog that chronicles my life's travels and how I like to try to bridge history to the present and kind of show through travel the beauty of all the world's cultures and how we arrived at where we are and where a place is when I go to visit that place, like what I experienced and what it was different in the past. And when you travel the world, it eliminates prejudices, it eliminates preconceived notions. It helps you to understand people and all the things you see on the world stage. You can actually go there and experience them for yourself and see if what everyone's reporting is true in your eyes. And so I try to expose the world to that with that travel blog. It's called theHorizonCalls.com. So I'm writing that right now.
So the horizoncalls.com, you've been traveling, as you say, you are a military brat, so you've been traveling since you've been one. Do you think that your ability to travel helps ultimately shape who you are?
Oh, absolutely. I am a citizen of the world. I would love for there to one day be no borders, that everybody can move freely across the entire planet would be my dream. So, and I think that with travel, as you experience life through others' eyes, you can absolutely, it'll change you. You can't be the same. Once you've experienced it, you can't unexperience it. And once you see for yourself, it can't be unseen. So it has to change you and you bring it back with you. You bring it back with you and you leave something behind. So they experience you as well. So it helps to close the gap of misunderstanding amongst people.
That's really good. That's really good. So you encourage it.
Absolutely. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I talk about a lot of the ways in my blog. So I try to give people who think that they can't go anywhere or do anything, you're stuck, you're limited on funds or time. You can travel. You can travel. Even if you can't leave the country, you can travel. There are places you can go, even nearby, that you'll experience something different if you are open to it. So,
Absolutely.
and then you asked about NIP Ventures. So NIP Ventures LLC, we initially started, my husband and I started that company to fund other things we wanted to get our feet in. So the first thing that we attempted to try to do, which didn't work out, was selling sweet potato pies. Yes. So we had a
Wait,
whole
what?
yes.
Potato pie? What?
Yes. So the company was going to be called Mama Sweets. And it was sweet potato pies, a recipe of my mother-in-law's that my husband had tweaked just slightly to our liking. And we were going to try to, we always got a lot of comments during the holidays when he would bake some of those and bring them to work. And all the fellas at work, he also worked in the Federal Aviation Administration at the time. they started ordering them in advance and, 2 and 3 and 4. And so everyone was like, you should sell these. And he said, I should. So we went about doing all the research to do that. Figured we needed a LLC to help protect our personal assets, and moving forward. So, we did a lot of development and research, R&D, and through that process realized it wouldn't really be possible to get it at the scale we wanted it to be at. We wanted to rival Patti LaBelle. We wanted it to be in the same
All
space
right now.
as hers. I know you can't start there, but like, how do you get there? And so you got to start, with that big vision and break down how did she get there? Well, we don't have her name in the industry or in the
Yeah, that
world.
name
So
recognition is no joke.
it's big. So, but what can we do? Well,
Right.
sweet potato pie is not as popular, as well known as pumpkin, for example. So you got to know your marketplace, know who you're marketing to, trying to grab a new audience and all that. So we did lots of research. And my husband, Marlon, is the brainchild behind a lot of things. And I am right there supporting and learning at the same
Well, it's a
time.
partnership. It's a
It's
partnership.
absolutely a
Yeah.
partnership. Absolutely. And it takes a lot of cooperation, vision, and then follow through. The
Mm.
follow through is the key. And so we went through that process, and in that we couldn't find a way to get it to the market at that scale without altering the recipe so much for preservation's sake, and shipping and so forth, that it becomes something totally different, and then it's not as good as you would hope. So we nixed that. And we kept looking around for other things to invest in, friends and family who might have small businesses that we would, hey, we'll invest in this and we'll become partners.
Well, hey, y'all didn't reach out to me, but we'll circle back.
Oh, right. Trying to see what we could get involved in. And then we landed on a partnership with our friends in the Keys, for a food truck business called Jimmy Snow Concessions. And it operated for about 5 years and went through multiple iterations, due to hurricanes and then COVID, and COVID finally put the nail in the end of it all. you know. So we closed that up completely in 2022. But it was fun while it lasted. It was very well done and thought out, just like Mama Sweets was being very well researched. And it was a great partnership with our friends down there in the Keys.
So, so I know you're getting to where you guys are, but let me say this. What I can appreciate as someone that's created an organization for women business owners, someone who is a business consultant, the fact that you did research,
Mhm.
you will be surprised at
Mhm.
how many entrepreneurs jump into a space and know nothing about that space, or know very limited about that space. So the fact that you even decided, you wanted to do the research before you made a full decision. I mean, I applaud you guys for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's absolutely paramount. You have to look at the marketplace, who's your audience, who are you trying to get on board, how can you get more people, and then what should you sell it for, what's your competition, how easy is it to get into? If it's
Say it.
simple,
Barriers to
like,
entry, your target
yes, your barriers to
demographic, your
entry.
competition, your pricing
Yes,
strategy. Yes, yes, and
yes.
all yes.
Yep. We learned a lot about trademarking and copywriting. Like, we had a logo that we created. So much, so much, so much. And then, you know, last year going to Full Sail, and my husband was going to another school for film and photography. We learned a lot more about marketing and the technology side and the technology side, and about eliciting emotion from your audience. If you don't elicit emotion, you're not going to get them.
Gotta
So
connect.
you have to connect. So we learned a lot there also, but through operating Jimmy Snow and it was like a year or probably a little bit more of talks that went on and research that went on before we even started that. And as we had to adapt and change over hurricanes, we went through having a trailer versus that we hauled with a vehicle, to having an actual food truck that was a vehicle in itself, having to get it wrapped, all of that. So
So
advertisement, social
staging.
media,
Mm-hmm.
etc. So we closed that up in 2022, and then life went on as federal employees in Atlanta, for the busiest airport in the world, Hartsfield-Jackson, through the Federal Aviation Administration. I worked in human resources, and my husband was an air traffic system specialist. So he's the one that keeps the planes in the sky and keeps everybody safe. And then we retired. Well, I retired first from the FAA in 2020, and we moved to Orlando. And so we were thinking, what are we going to do next now that we're out of federal service? And for a while, it was, okay, I'm just going to bask in this freedom.
Absolutely. And not
So,
have to get up
right,
and
get up when
teach
I want
and everything
to.
else.
And he was still working, and then COVID hit. And so after that first year, like in 2021, he retired. So he was really looking for what we're going to do next. The whole while, we were also looking at real estate. And my husband's very handy. He's an electrician. He can work with wood. He can paint, all of that. So we've done a lot of remodeling on our home there in Atlanta. And also a lot of just making it more hospitable to us and more to our liking of our home here in Orlando. And so he has a lot of friends that also work with wood and construction and things like that. So another thought was getting into house flipping. And so we researched, that research has been going and going and going for a long time. And it's about to become reality very soon. So that's another venture that we're working on together through NIP Ventures. And NIP, again, is funding me as a writer in this blog sphere. The reason for the blog, aside from my passion for travel and trying to get people together and recognize that the human race is one, saying, and getting us all together. Besides my passion for that and trying to express that through the travel blog, also co-authoring a book about financial freedom and different pathways to it, because everyone can do something. I'm co-authoring that with my husband, and so NIP is also funding that.
So that's really good. So I know just as we hit on real estate, you are a part of a series, our Women in Wealth series that we're doing. I believe you guys are on the 30th of the month of April 2024, which means for you to be on that panel, you have a level of expertise, you have some experience as it relates to using, and specifically the Women in Wealth series has several things underneath it, but the panel that you're specifically on is something as it relates to using real estate to build wealth. So I know you mentioned you guys are getting into the house flipping space, but you also own a home. You own a couple homes now. So you have a home in Georgia, and then now you're in Florida. So I know you and I were talking, and you know, I was saying, wow, you know, I just talked to one of our other members who paid off their house in 5 years. I was like, I never heard of that. And you were like, well, we paid ours off before then. I said, what? What? Wait, you can tell me that part. So, you know, I always say, you know, because, you know, so of course, you know, everybody has their different reasons. This particular person said, well, I'm not going to go into full-time entrepreneurship with a mortgage. Completely understand. Still never saw where I've seen 10-year mortgages, I've seen 15-year mortgages. I've never seen anybody pay anything off 5 years and under. So the fact that you're under that 5 years, please tell everybody about what that looks like. What did that look like when you guys decided we want to be really aggressive in getting rid of this mortgage?
Well, we have a lot of factors that maybe other people may not be able to pull on, but certainly you have to think long term early. So you have to be thinking about this out the gate. As soon as you leave your mom and dad's house, start thinking about what you want your life to look like in 20 years, what you want things to look like when you're up in age and you're a senior. And so my husband is very much lives in what's the liminal space, that future. So I have to kind of concentrate on the now, but how we got here with this house is many factors. So for a very long time, we've been upping how much we save every year, and we've always paid more than what we needed to. If we could, we tried to pay double every month on our mortgage. So if the mortgage 1,400, you want to pay double that. So
So you're paying, so would it be safe to say, so if you're making two payments, are you intentional about saying I'm making it towards the interest and then, you know, and then this is the mortgage payment, or is it just double that particular amount?
it's more about, like, it's also the upfront. So we put a large sum down, very large, not very large, but a significant amount down in the first place. And then, so that cut everything vastly.
Okay.
It
So
makes
you would say maybe about 20% or more.
more.
Oh wow, that's a
Mhm.
lot. Because most people don't want to put down at least 20% on
Yeah.
their mortgage. So the fact that you decide to go over 20%, that's a lot.
I would have to look, and I'll have that exact number. Like, I know the amount.
Well, you don't have to tell us the exact number
But,
just now. That's
I'll
not
have the percentage. I'll have the percentage that we put down when we talk next. But yeah, we put more than that down. So in order to do that, we had to have it. So and then also we tapped into our TSP, which is like a 401k
so
that
I
usually.
know what TSP stands for because I also come from a federal background. So for those that don't know, can you tell everybody what TSP is?
Now, I don't know what it stands for off the top of my head.
Okay, so TSP is the Thrift Savings Plan.
Yes, thrift savings. I
Typically,
do know.
those.
I couldn't remember, like, what does it stand
Yeah.
for?
So typically, when you go into the federal space, you opt in for that, and you just collect. You know,
Yes, and
people.
like
Some people.
your federal agency, or if you're in the military, they usually match up your percentage to a certain number. And so that's one of the spaces that we got into as a result of being military and being federal employees. He started his TSP back when he was serving in the Air Force, and I didn't start mine until I left the Air Force, and I had a 401k when I was a federal contractor, and I moved that 401k money into the TSP when I started with the FAA.
And so, you know, as we talk about wealth building strategies and that sort of thing, you basically took advantage of what was offered through when you were employed. And when you moved in certain places, you ensured to move those funds. It's so interesting. And I know we're going to get back to the mortgage, but it's so interesting because when what I noticed, because I also come from a veteran family, what I have seen sometimes is where so when most people, when they join, most people don't realize there's automatically, you get an insurance policy, roughly 400,000, roughly. What is it? I think it's the SGLI or something like that. And if you don't move that money, you lose it. and it's insane to me. And I'm like, you have paid into this policy and you have the ability to move that to a different vehicle upon exit of the military. But so many people miss that.
Right, right. And when it comes to the TSP, things have changed a lot in the military. It used to be that you would get a pension. If you stayed to retirement and you retired honorably, then you would get a pension, a retirement payment every month from that point to the day you die. And now they have gone the way of many civilian sector companies where you have a 401k, they will match you and invest as well, and that is your pension. You don't get a pension anymore from the military. So, and if you opt out, if you don't opt in to TSP, then you're not going to get anything when you retire now, except for your veterans benefits. So that's something that I'm sure that I don't know how many people and what they're being taught when they join the military now, but I would hope that that's part of the process when you sign up, that they tell you expressly what is TSP, can it do for you. You should opt in, and here's why. Put as much as you can away, so we'll talk more on the 30th about how we got there. But yeah, we had to do a lot of savings and a lot of strategic planning long ago before we even knew each other. You have to have a vision for what you want in life in general, let alone specifically. And so, you know, I never really thought.
Getting back to the mortgage, you guys started with over 20%, over 20% down. And then was there a strategy as far as how many out of the 12 months per year, taking maybe 6 months and doing double payments, or like, was there a strategy there?
Well, we paid double every month. So it wasn't like, well, we're going to do this for a little bit of time. No, we paid double every month. That was what mortgage is this, we're paying double that every time, so that it just goes quicker. It gets that interest
Now,
out the way.
can I ask you a question? So I'm going to ask you what I asked the other individual. Did your mortgager then come to you and say, wait, wait a minute, what are you doing? Because at the end of the day, when there is, I'm assuming you guys use the VA loan.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So that vehicle versus like FHA and all that other stuff. Did your mortgager then come to you and say, wait a minute, what are y'all doing? Because they make money. I mean, that's the whole premise, is
the whole point.
interest. So did
Yep.
you originally sign a 30-year mortgage or a 15-year mortgage or a 10-year mortgage? What did you sign up for? And then once you started being super aggressive with your payment, what did your mortgage servicer then say?
Well, they were shook from the beginning because we put such a large sum down. And they were also shook at how much we did when we were purchasing the house. The owner at the time was seeking a certain amount, and then we've had the house inspection and things, right? And the house inspector, we found out some other stuff about them. I'll tell you about that later. The house inspector found all these things that needed to be fixed, and of course the VA, you in order to get a VA loan, the house must be sound, and certain things will be fixed, or you will not be able to purchase that house with the VA. So the homeowner agreed to fix all the things the VA required, and but said that he wasn't going to fix anything else. And so, and can you prove how much it's going to cost anyway? Da, 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 right? So my husband went and found everything that was wrong, found all the places to go to get it fixed, and priced it all out as if he was going to do it himself, and then presented that to the homeowner and to the seller. And he agreed to drop the price by like 20,000, because he didn't want to take time to repair the stuff, or to go and call the people that we sent him that gave us those quotes. So he didn't want to take the time to do that. He wanted to get out. He was trying to get out quickly. So he dropped the price by 20,000. Then we put a large sum down, and so they were already shook. So and when we started paying, yeah, we went through actually 3 companies before they finally settled on the one that we were paying consistently over. In the first year, they went through 3 different companies. They sent our thing to 3 different companies, probably because they realized they're not going to make the money they thought they were going to make off of us right away. So they sold it to 2 other companies.
Let me
The
back up.
last,
Let me
yeah,
back up. So, did you sign a 30-year mortgage?
I believe it was a 30-year mortgage. It might have been 20, but I believe it
So,
was.
so you're saying that the mortgage company that you originally signed with, and this isn't super uncommon, they sometimes mortgagers they will sell it off, but 3 different companies within a year is a little bit.
Oh, not 30, three.
Three, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Three
Oh,
different
yeah.
is kind of still uncommon in
Mhm.
1 year.
Yeah,
That's
I'm not
a lot.
sure. I'm not sure what their reasoning was. I just assumed that it maybe had something to do with how much we were paying and how quickly we were paying it off. They did advise us not to pay it off that quickly. Um,
Because
Um, I don't know what they said why, but like it kind of went in one ear and out the other because it had nothing to do with our plans.
so,
um,
but you didn't have a prepayment penalty attached to the mortgage.
Now, did we? I think we did, but it wasn't high. I'd have to look again at all the paperwork and everything, but they were not happy.
Of course they were. Yeah.
Um,
So did they
we
so let me just tell you, when we spoke with the other person and they mentioned their servicer called and said, "Hey, what are you doing? Are you trying to invest more real estate? We can give you a home equity line, like all this stuff." Did they offer you guys anything additional?
all of that happened. Yes. We can do this, we can get you into this. There's all this other realty you want to invest. Yes, all of that happened. Of course, you get all the solicitations as they see you paying your house off. When they see that you put a large sum down, we right away started getting all kinds of offers and phone calls and emails and text messages. And yeah, they did offer all of that.
And this is the Florida residency and our residence, and you were in Atlanta for how long?
We lived in Atlanta for 10 years.
Okay. So that's still less than 30 years. Did
Mhm.
y'all make an effort to pay that mortgage as well, or is that done?
And that one is also done. So we own both homes. And that one was it was a foreclosure when we purchased it. So and we got it for like 95,000.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. And at the time when they built those homes 5 years prior to us moving there, they were going, that model was going for, I think, 150 at the time. And now it's like 400, 350, 400 is
Yeah.
what the same homes are going for. And so, and we got it for like 95 and we paid it off. mm, I want to say it was maybe 8 years, maybe less.
Okay. Okay.
But it was a lot smaller mortgage. And we were always doing what we had been doing. So which, oh, that's the other thing is that when we moved to Georgia, we had a house in the panhandle of Florida, near Pensacola. And that home, we had a renter in there. We had that we leased it out to someone. And it just became too much with the two mortgages because that home, even though smaller and everything, so much more expensive. And the mortgage was way higher. And that was before we had our disability status with the Veterans Administration also. So a lot of things weren't in place at that time. So we got rid of that home, and then we were able to take the money that we were spending on both mortgages and put that money directly towards the mortgage in Georgia. So that helped us be able to pay it off very quick. And since we were already comfortable living without those funds, it was easy to take those funds and apply them there, and stay within that same, living space.
Got it. So, Ashonté, let me ask you this. Um, so you're at a point where you are, you know, it's so funny because people retire and then the saying is if you don't stay busy, be careful because I think that's the fear of most people when they retire. If I'm not busy, Lord, like, I don't want to, I might die or something. That's always the thought, like, because first of all, our bodies were made to move, essentially. Um, but you guys retired early, way, way earlier than I would say most people. How old were you when you retired?
2019, I'm 49 now, 45.
That's insane. I'm just saying that. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
and
what
it's
it
not,
is.
our retirement wasn't a regular retirement, but it's still retirement. Um,
Absolutely.
and and we are in a position where we don't have to work.
Yeah,
So all the work that we do, funded or not, is because we are choosing to. So we're at that space where you can choose to do that. Now, the more comfortable you want to be and the more things you want to do and the more people you have to help, it might drive you back to the workforce, whether you want to be there or not.
right.
um, so, and then having no mortgage, it just frees you. It completely frees you. And then it frees you of worry too, because you're gonna have a roof over your head,
Absolutely.
and you have some
And, and
place
and
that,
and let me say this. So Florida's not cheap
it's
at
not
all.
more and more expensive by the day.
So, that real estate in Florida, I am sure, although, you have the storms, etc., but I'm assuming, just like the rest of the world, it went up in a lot of value in the past probably 3 years or so, because that's what everyone is seeing. And they end up complaining about, especially in our area, the taxes, the taxes, the taxes, the taxes, because, you know, it's the home value has increased so much.
Right.
Do you guys participate in any like tax shelters or anything that helps with what you guys do? Because I know you're receiving, retirement, you got disability, but like we had a whole call with one of our partners, specifically ADP, and ADP, of course, is talking about certain things as it relates to, tax deferred and how much you can put inside of your IRA so you're not taxed on it. Do you guys participate in any of that?
So one of the benefits of being 100% disabled veteran is tax exemption. So in Florida, and it's not everywhere, but in certain states, there's several. I know Florida, Georgia, Texas, Alaska. There's a lot of veterans benefits given by that state specifically. And so one of them in Georgia and Florida is tax exemption on your home. So we are exempt. We don't pay those taxes every year. There is something called the CDD, Community Development. I forget what the last D is for, that for new neighborhoods that we have to pay every year here in Florida, but we're exempt on so as that amount goes up,
So hold on a second. I let me wait a minute. We got to put a little disclaimer there. So are we talking about if you are a 100% that you're not paying those taxes? Because veterans are paying taxes
no,
like
it's
in the
only
state of
for
Georgia.
it's only for 100% disabled veterans, and
Right, right, right.
you have to also tell them and bring your paperwork and tell the mortgage company and the tax adjuster that's the case. They don't just know that once you get your rating, you're not magically removed from the tax rolls. So yes, you have to let that status be known. It has to be part of what you're doing with the
So
county.
you're not even feeling the hit like a lot of people.
No. So,
They
and we can,
probably
but you can
listen when
only
we
be.
listen when we put this out. They're gonna be like, "What?"
And that's what I mean by there's a lot of things in play that may not be possible for everybody, but certainly there's many people who are veterans, and there's many people who have not attempted to get a disability rating for what their sacrifices in their service. And almost every veteran, really every veteran has sacrificed to some degree and should get examined and should consider getting their rating if they should need one. And
I don't know
if
how the
you
county gonna feel about stuff like that because they're gonna be like, "Wait a minute, we need y'all tax dollars."
but
but but
we're spending our tax dollars in the community. We are spending money. We're living there. We're buying groceries there. We're using gas there. So you're getting our tax money too.
absolutely. And Georgia and specifically Florida, y'all have what is it? It's no sales tax, right?
Yeah, there's no sales tax down here, so that helps. But everything is priced because there's no sales tax. So
Right, right.
kind of like being in Hawaii is like almost like everything is shipped in, even though it's not.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay. So, what advice do you have for because ideally, you know, as you mentioned, everybody has different everybody is not going to be able to do what you guys do because one, they're not a veteran. Two, they may not have their rating. But what, and I know you're saying you're writing a book, but do you want to share just maybe one or two little things that you think people can do if they are looking to be more financially fit and sound and strategic?
Mm. There's a lot of things you can do. So
Just give us
first,
two, because they need to buy your book. They got to buy the book if they want more. Okay, we're not giving it all out here.
Well, you absolutely have to be clear in what you want your life to look like and be building towards that. So, you know, can you give me 1 second? Let me see. Two things.
I
Two things you could go ahead.
mean, exactly. Let me just say this. So, one of the things, and for those, for just full disclosure, I've known Ashonté for quite a long time, so I know her personally outside of her being just a part of the organization with Southern Crescent Women in Business. um and I know that you and your husband have worked in partnership. I mean, even if you want to talk about why working in partnership with your spouse is so important when you're trying to achieve certain financial goals, you can talk about that as well. Because we love, we like our shades. we like our purses, you know. but sometimes it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't align with what we're trying to do. So I mean, share.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably a biggest one. So that's one of the things I'm kind of alluding to is like being intentional about what you want your life to look like. And if that includes a partner, a romantic partner, a spouse, then that spouse is not about their looks or about any of the things that you can readily see, hear, taste, feel. You know what I'm saying? It's about having clear vision that's communicated between the both of you and being in accord, being in agreement. Literally being in agreement, not saying you're in agreement and just being la di da, okay, and then going to do something that, like you said, doesn't align. So if your goal is to save $100,000 within the year, and then, okay, well, how are we going to do that? Well, we have this income, this income, and we do this, and this, we can save that amount. But if you don't agree that that's possible, like you don't see the numbers, one of the things my husband is really good at doing is not just making a plan or a grandiose statement, but literally saying, we are going to save $100,000 this year. Here's how we're going to do it. We have to save this much every month. And I think we can do it if you only get your hair done twice this year. That sounds crazy, but it's possible for me. So things like that, like we're only taking one trip out of the country this year and it's already planned and paid for. And we know we give ourselves per diem, a daily allowance on a trip, for example. If things come up, we get invited to different things, or to do different things. Is it going to take away from what we already have planned out? Then the answer is no, it's easy. So I have a hard time saying no to people, but that makes it easy. Oh, nope, can't do it. It's not in line. Sorry.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, you have to be in cooperation with your partner and you have to be full disclosure and honesty. If you disagree, say you disagree, have the disagreement instead of acting on it because it's very passive aggressive and it negates everything you're trying to do. And it ultimately, if you don't understand, if your partner's bringing a vision to you and they haven't explained it to your understanding, then get the understanding. Don't just go against it, act against it, and then be like, what's the problem? Or I'm a woman, I should be able to make this decision. Well, you've made a decision, you agreed to it. So stick with the agreements. And if you aren't sure or you change your mind or find new information, share it with your partner because maybe the new information might need to change the plan. So, but you have to have a plan You have to agree to the plan, and you have to be completely transparent with each other. It's kind of scary, but that's the point.
That's a little scary. I'm just gonna be honest. So is it easy for you? Let's just ask that. And what's the advice to other women who are in business, who are in partnership, and really, staying in alignment if that's the plan with their partner?
So it is not easy. It is not easy. It's hard to have those conversations. It's hard to be honest about your feelings about it, and it's hard to stand strong if you have an opposing view or an opposing vision, or a different, or you can see a different, but if you can see a different way of getting there, or you don't agree with a plan that's set out, or how you're going about it, it's not easy to express it, but it does force you to be more knowledgeable on whatever topic may be, so that you can present your side of it. So you
Yeah,
have to be
or
able
or just more
to
creative.
communicate.
So this was your this is the ultimate goal. This is your way of getting there. Let me present maybe one or two different ways, and let's see if we can come to some level of agreement.
Right. And or maybe we could combine these methods into a greater, it might even get there quicker, you know.
I'm telling you
So,
now, you know, just the women in our organization, I know we have people that listen that are not necessarily African American or female, but when you say only hair done twice a year, I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I can't imagine that is ever going to go over well at all with so that's a lot.
like I know, that's one of the things that we'll do is like, just like during COVID, the luxuries go away first, right? So hairstylists were hurting, nail technicians and manicurists were hurting, all of those people that provide those services that people in times, of economic hardship or insecurity, that's the first thing that goes away. That Starbucks run goes away. Your vices go away also. So you
So
stop
I have to
smoking.
say this. I have to say this. So our particular, what we saw was opposite of that. So because the women were home more, everyone in the beauty space, their numbers increased, sometimes doubled. Especially, so we had a young lady that her whole thing was lashes. And I don't know if it's because when we put the mask on, all you were seeing were lashes, but literally her numbers doubled. So that beauty is $1 billion industry. And it I would say it took a little bit of hit, especially with some of the nail salons, because it was a whole nother, it was a whole, that's a whole nother thing. But because people were home more, especially the women, it also increased because they're like, wait a minute, my husband's home. I gotta go get my pet. I gotta get my feet done. I can't be walking around like this. Or it was so interesting because literally we thought that it would have that same impact as well, but the numbers of those who own those spaces were not seeing that. They were trying to get real creative about how we're going to do this. So if we got COVID, then it's one person. We wiping everything down. We showing you what it looks like. But people were literally, women were going to find a way to make sure they maintained.
Certainly, I have always wanted to, like, I've always done my own hair since I was like 10 years old. I used to do my own hair, as much as possible. I also, have lots of family members that were hairstylists and things like that. But even in Atlanta, in home of the most beautiful hair on the planet, um, and the best stylist ever, I had to find ways to limit how much money I'm spending for something that is temporary. So you got to know your needs from your wants, and you have to know delayed gratification that is worked for is so much more rewarding than and the ultimate, like, would you like to have your hair looking nice every month, or would you like to have a home?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And
Do you want
how
your
can
hair
I
looking nice or a home?
right. So and so I want to have both. So how can I have both? You have to find a way to have both with that still allows you to have the home. So you can't negate the plan for something temporary like having nice looking hair. If it means I have a nice shaped head, I will shave my hair off if I have to, because I would prefer the peace that comes with having a home. And it is absolutely wealth.
Absolutely. Listen, I think that's a perfect place to end. So, Ashonté, how do people reach you? How do they find you? How do they reach you?
All right, so you can go to thehorizoncalls.com, of course, and you can find me on all the socials for the Horizon Calls. I'm also at ashontewrites.com, and you can find me there. And I'm also on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So start with thehorizoncalls.com. You'll find me there.
All right. And listen, it has been an absolute pleasure. So I know you're saying Knit Ventures is funding that, but what that blog, I know you're gonna end up getting some travel sponsors, because at the end of the day, if you're going places, if people are seeing that blog, you're getting more eyes on that blog, they're gonna want to be there too. you know. So
That's the
again,
hope.
oh no, it will. So we will see you on our Women in Wealth panel very soon. It has been an absolute pleasure, Ms. Ashonté Lyles. And thank you again for sharing with Women, Wealth, and Entrepreneurship podcast. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for having me.
Again, this has been another episode of Women, Wealth, and Entrepreneurship with Ariel Shaw, MBA. Thank you for joining us. And if you have not, download our new theme song, Women in Business theme song by Miss Lacey. You've heard it here, and we are so excited that you've joined us. Thank you and have an amazing day.